Hello, everyone. Dr. Victoria Skirbo here, speaking to you from the Seeds of Transformation Healing Center in Wareham, Massachusetts. It's time for the astrology and Kabbalah of January. That's January 2023. And we're going to do the numerology, the tree of life correspondences, the chakra correspondences, and the first week of January. I think that's good enough. And then each week I'll do the next week. All right, so let's get started. Or as they say up here in Massachusetts, let's get started. Time to get started. All righty then. So okay, so we're looking at the astrology and the Kabbalah of January 2023. Part 1 will be the numbers. The numbers. Did I say part 3? Part 1 will be the numbers. Alrighty then. The numbers and the tree. So 2023 is a new universal year vibration. And of course, 2 + 2 + 3 = 7. So we're in a 7 year. This is the universal year. It says here that 7 seeks answers. It tries to establish a philosophy by which to live, to penetrate the mystery behind its existence, which it has never questioned to this point. Because solitude is necessary for analysis, the 7 feels the need to spend time alone, away from the crowds, in touch with nature. It looks for friendship with those of an elevated consciousness that can match its own. 7 ushers into a cycle of physical completion without apparent effort. Goals that have been long sought are now magically attained. The key words for a 7 year: quiet, introspective, intuitive, analytical, inspirational, reclusive, philosophical, mystical. This from the book Numerology and Divine Triangle by Faith Javane, my teacher's teacher, and Dusty Bunker. If you happen to have a 7 in your chart, this may be your year. This feels comfortable if you have a 7 in your chart. Unless, of course, it is a 7 shadow, and then it's a little bit more of a challenge. All right, on to the next one. Now, because we're dealing with the universal 7 year, when we look to the months as we move through the 7 year, we have to add the vibration of the month. And of course, January is the first month of the year. And when we add 1 and 7, we get an 8. So the vibration, the specific vibration for January 2023 is an 8. You will be reaping what you have sown. Uh-oh, says certain people, and hooray, says others. As you sow, so shall you reap. You will receive exactly in proportion what you have given. Wow. Accept your authority and the power to bring these manifestations to the material plane. So for those of you who have been working diligently in the direction of light and love and even whatever it is that you are striving for and have put energy into, you will reap the rewards of that. For those of you who have put negative energy into situations, you will reap the rewards of that as well. So it depends, a lot depends on your own integrity in these situations, right? So if we look at the tree of life and where this path, this 8 vibration sits, it sits right here on the tree of life between the Sephireth Geburah, which is associated with Mars, sorry about that, and the Sephireth Hesed, which is associated with the planet Jupiter. The path that runs between these two paths is the path where the 8 vibration sits. It is associated with the sign of Leo and the strength card in the tarot. We have January 2023, 1 + 7 = 8. This is strength, the intelligence of the secret of all spiritual activities. That's the name of this path. And it is associated with the sign of Leo. We have this Hebrew letter here, which is a Taeth, which is snake. And the snake that we speak of, whoops, sorry about that. The snake that we speak of with this letter is the Kundalini, the spiritual force that is asleep in our root and is woken up to rise up to our higher chakras, allowing the energy of the earth, the roots, right, to become a conduit for spirit, Now, when we look at these Sephirah or Sephirah that are activated through this path, we have Mars. And what's Mars doing in January? Well, Mars stations direct in January 12th to be exact, 2023 at 9 degrees of Gemini. The vibration of the day that Mars stations direct is a 20/2. This is the judgment card. This is the card of the awakening soul. So it's very possible with this Mars station, there can be an awakening of sorts to a situation perhaps that you hadn't yet considered or you didn't consider in yourself. Remember, we're in a 7-year, and a 7-year is about coming to understand who you are at a soul level, at a core level. We also look at what's going on with Jupiter, right? Because Jupiter is activated through this path via Hesed, the Sephiroth of generosity, the Sephiroth of expansion, the Sephiroth of building, okay? The Sephiroth Geburah, where Mars is the Sephiroth of breaking down. And so this particular area on the tree of life is associated with our metabolism, Perhaps you need to look into whether your metabolism is slow, whether it's fast. How can you balance out your metabolism so that it's not all about growing and not letting go, or it's not all about letting go and severity. There's a balance between mercy and severity here. Jupiter is in Aries, the expansion of the new. Now, Jupiter was in Aries in 2021. It dipped into Aries. It was there for a while. And then it went back into Pisces, sort of wrapped things up. At the end of December, it moved out of Pisces, or the mid-December, actually, moved out of Pisces and back into Aries, where it will be until May, I believe, May. And then it goes into Taurus, which is a whole nother thing. We'll talk about that when we get there. This is a time of, Aries is a time of experience. It's a time of planting seeds. It's a time of bursting forth, right? Aries is the energy of Mars, but Mars is in Gemini and sort of standing still, right? But when Mars stations, it has a lot of power and oomph behind it. And then it slowly starts to move direct. At a certain point, it's when it first starts to move direct, it's sort of kind of like when you have a bow and you let it go, the arrow just sort of sits there for a moment and then the bow takes it. And then as it goes, it gets swifter and swifter and swifter. And then whoosh, right? So this Gemini energy that has been pulled all the way back is released at this time. And so initially it's going to feel slow and then it's going to zoom. And we're going to see that forward motion when we come into March, we really start to feel this, like, this energy shift. Part of that is because we have two major shifts of sign in March, which is very important. But that Mars is sort of like supercharging everything in the direction of the future, quite frankly, in the direction of the future. On January 24th, Jupiter will make a waning sextile to the sun. This is the only aspect, I believe, that Jupiter is making. No, that's not true. That's not true. Jupiter is making a number of aspects. But this is illumination around progressive thinking based on your understanding. We're going to look at the first week, at least, of, and I'm not sure, is there something going on with Jupiter? I think there is. Yeah. Jupiter sextile Venus first week, which is lovely, actually. All right. Let's go. So we are on the 19th path. The 19th path, the intelligence of the secret of all spiritual activities, mediates between Hesed, the universal principle of expansion and creation, and Geburah, the universal principle of destruction. The astrological attribution to this path is Leo, and the Hebrew letter is Taith, the serpent. The presence of the inner spiritual force creeps to the surface and materializes in the waking consciousness, says so Pamela Eakins, from the book on the spiritual tarot, one of my favorite tarot decks and one of my favorite books. It comes in a set, and I would definitely, if you're interested in Kabbalah, I would definitely get the cards with the book. The presence of the creative spirit is perceived. Remember, Leo is a sign associated with creative self-expression. New potentials and change, overcoming the lower nature through love. The woman who is controlling the beast, the lion, does it through gentleness and through compassion and through love. The essence of this chart is the internal flame that rises like a serpent in the darkness, the coiled fiery power of attuning to process. What are you processing? You're processing your own soul. Many of us have gone through our whole entire lives just living our life, not thinking about these things, and suddenly we have these great awakenings and we're like, oh my God, what's going on? Why am I here? What's my purpose? Now, as an astrologer for many years, I've had a long time to, I've been doing this a long time, long enough to know that most people who come to me for that reason. But it's getting more and more people are realizing the necessity for understanding self. And of course, astrology is a great tool for that, as is the Kabbalah. All right. Astrology and Kabbalah of January 2023, part 2. I think it's going to say the chakras. It takes a long time to come up. The chakras. So the universal year vibration 7, along the path that connects Bina here to Geburah. This is the 7. This is the path of the that's activated all year. It is the first path in the pillar of severity. It's a very, very powerful. Bina is the place of creation. It's where things gestate in the dark to be born. Geburah is action, but it's action to cut away the extraneous, the unnecessary, in order to free yourself up to move forward. Mars. As it sits here, the 7 path, it's actually activating 2 chakras, the third eye and the throat. Okay, the third eye via Bina, in the throat via Gebura. The vibration of 8 is completely within the throat chakra, right here. This is where the serpent, right, Tayeth, the 19th path, Leo energy, okay, and this is where the 8 is, the strength card, yeah, on the tree of life. So the 2 chakras activated are 2 higher chakras, one with our ability to see and perceive, to be intuitive, psychic, pattern recognition, third eye, and throat, our capacity to express ourselves, to co-create with spirit. The throat chakra is where we step aside, where we step aside and we allow divine will. We put our will aside and allow divine will. Actually, it's where divine will works. Our will steps aside in the solar plexus. But we're not there yet. That'll come later in the year. Okay. All right. So here we have Aja. Aja means to perceive. It also means to command. It is the third eye chakra. Okay. Its color is indigo. Indigo, like a deep, deep, deep purple, purpley blue. Sometimes at night after the sun goes down, there's that like inky purpley blue color in the sky that's just beautiful, that comes with the coming night. And of course, this chakra is associated with the element of light, This is our star seed connection. This is where we connect to our brothers, our brothers and sisters from other planetary places where we ourselves could be from. Many of us have come onto the planet to do this spiritual work and to do this light work and to do this healing work, are not all exclusively and originally from Earth. Well, I'm not sure anybody who's originally from Earth, but we are here to help the birth of light, the birth of a new awakening, of a new awareness. The structures are already there. People have been working on this for a long time. The psychic structures are there. We're just becoming open to the tuning of that. The more we meditate, the more we work with crystals, the more that gets out there, the more and more people will vibrate to these vibrations. When you are in density, you don't even think that these things are a thing. But once you step out and you stick your nose out into that other realm, those higher realms, and you do that through meditation, sometimes people have spontaneous situations where this comes up. But this is when you wake up. This is when you wake up and you can start to see clearly. And this is the throat chakra. This is Vishuddha. Vishuddha means purification. It is associated with our capacity to co-create. It is located right here. The associated gland is the thyroid. The thyroid is considered sort of the master gland for metabolism. It can speed things up and it can slow things down, right? Vishuddha is the element associated with the throat chakra is sound. This is where we create sound and we express vibration, and that vibration is a creative process. So it's so very important, especially in January, to watch your words. Speak the words of the things you want to create, as opposed to what you don't, because one way or the other, something's going to get created, and it's best that it's something that you want, that you're focused on, that instead of and things that are within your capacity. We co-create with spirit, so we have to, on a certain level, know who we are, what our abilities, what our capacities are, and what the potential is for our future. And this is an excellent time to do that. January is an excellent time for this. Okay. All right, so now we're looking at part 3, which is the astrology of January 2023. And as I said, we're going to look at the first week. So there's something happening, I think, almost every day, except the third, like, big thing happening, right, in the first week. But it's all pretty nice, actually. The first thing that happens 25, was it 25 minutes or 5 minutes after? Let me see. 20 minutes, I think. Where is that? 20 minutes after midnight here on the East Coast of the US. We had a conjunction between Venus and Pluto. So it's the first major aspect to happen over Washington, D.C., which you look to when you're looking at what's going to go on in the U.S. Venus is what we love, and Pluto is power. So there's definitely a love of power as we start this this year. Venus is also the feminine, so it's the power of the feminine. Last year, Venus started the year retrograde in Capricorn. And so she had a tough year. Women had a tough year, and yet the tougher the year, the more expression of the feminine occurred, right? We saw it in the election. We see it in places like Iran. We see it in places like Afghanistan. There is a rising up of the power of the feminine and an understanding of that power. I'm happy we're starting this year with this, because I think it's actually going to be a very good year for women this year. Monday, January 2nd, we have Mercury make a sextile to Neptune. Sextiles open the lines of communication. Sometimes we're opening the lines to learn things, and sometimes we're opening the lines to share what we know, to educate, to teach. And this is that kind of sextile. It's also because we're dealing with Neptune, we're communicating with spirit, we're communicating with source. Mercury is the planet that helps us to create thought forms, to create a structure, a mental structure, for us to be able to function in this three-dimensional reality. And when it connects, especially in these opportunistic sextiles or trines with the transpersonal planets like Neptune or Pluto or Uranus, we're given the opportunity to see things from a much further out, sort of far out perspective. And with Neptune, we're usually dealing with spirit and things of a spiritual nature, things of a nature of oneness, the unity of one. On the same day, we have Venus ingress into Aquarius. So it's interesting, she has a meeting with Pluto, and then the next day, pretty much, she's off into Aquarius. And this is powerful because we have Pluto moving into Aquarius this year. And there's a lot of things going to be happening at that sort of first degree of Aquarius. And it's going to be an interesting year. I think we're really going to get a view of the future possibilities, both good and bad. And so we'll kind of have an idea of what's ahead for the next 20 years or so. On Wednesday, the 4th, Venus makes a sextile to Jupiter. Remember, Jupiter just moved back into Aries. So now we have Venus sextiling Jupiter, an opportunity for progressive change. This actually goes back to April of 2021 when these two planets conjoined. I think it was 27 degrees, 28 degrees of Pisces. It is, we're going to look at it. So I think it's 28 degrees of Pisces. And Pisces and Venus and Jupiter. Jupiter is the ruler of Pisces, or the classical ruler of Pisces. Venus is exalted in Pisces. So there was this very high, exalted healing energy that was initiated in April, and we come around 300 degrees of the 360-degree circle, and we get to share what we understand about it. We get to share our knowledge with each other so we can work together for progressive change. For progressive change. So while there will be many people out there rehashing the old garbage, the old way of doing things, that's not gonna work. What's gonna work is to work together for improvement of the collective, finding out what your special gift is and sharing it freely with others so that you can improve society, as opposed to an ego trip, which, can happen easily enough. We're all human, so we all have the capacity to, kind of get caught up in our ego. And, it's okay. We can forgive ourselves for that, but we have to recognize it. And we have to question it. I think we have to continuously questioning, is this really something that is coming through, a truth that's coming through, or is this my own ego speaking? So we're going to have a lot of people this year, I think, come up, a lot of spiritual people, a lot of guru types coming out, and they're going to have their followers, and there's going to be all kinds of things. But if you haven't worked it and you haven't built a foundation for that in your life to be one of those people, or even to you got to have first understand who you are, right? And so gurus, spiritual people can help with that. But it's less about following them and more about having them help you understand yourself, I think. Of course, you can follow them if they're cool and you're learning a lot. What the heck, right? All right. So Thursday, January 5th, we have the sun making a waning trine to Uranus. Change comes easily with this. Now, the sun's in Capricorn. Uranus is in Taurus. That's not such, Earth is hard to change, except it's not hard to change now. And this could also be some sort of seismic activity occurring, some sort of earth change that we can't ever take that out of the picture, because Uranus is in Taurus and it is still conjunct the North Node. So they're moving together still. And so there's more change ahead. Change, whether you expect it or not. Even though I expect change and things are going to change, you don't quite know what that's going to be. You just have to go with it. There's a lot of going by the seat of your pants. And that's really been the case since 2000, when we moved from the Sephiroth in the Tree of Life to the paths in 2000 as universal year vibrations anyway. All right. So let's see, Friday, January 6th, we have a full moon at 17 degrees of Cancer. We'll take a look at that. And then Saturday, January 7th, we have Sun make a conjunction to Mercury retrograde. It's called an inferior conjunction, and it is the highlight of the Mercury retrograde cycle. So it's a really good day to meditate. That vibration on that day is a 15-6. That's the devil card. What are you attached to? What are you attached to? What do you refuse to let go of, perhaps? Okay. Let's take a look. So this is the first thing we're going to look at. It's Venus conjunct Pluto. It occurs at 28 degrees of Capricorn, which is interesting because that is the degree of the Pluto of the US. In fact, the United States had its last swipe of Pluto over Pluto. That occurred on December 28th, so it was only a couple of days ago. And it's still, it's just sitting there pretty tight at that 28th degree of Capricorn. The Sabian symbol is a large aviary. The keynote here is the enjoyment of the spiritual values by the soul able to familiarize itself with the implications, keyword clairaudience. This is about all the different voices, all the voices of spirit, the voices of God, the voices, and how do we live in this Avery, so to speak, in this higher sort of vibrational sense situation, and still do what needs to be done. It takes, sometimes it can be confusing. So we can find ourselves perhaps thinking we're on the right path to find out that we're not quite on the right path. There is a need to be adaptable in this situation because we still have Neptune and Pisces. Adaptability is going to be very important for our survival. We're going to have to be able to just, as my friend says, adapt or die. So here's the chart. This is the chart for the US, and this conjunction happens in the 4th house, so the house of real estate, the house of home, family. This is the people's house, really. This is the people's house. It's interesting because as we start here, the House of Representatives is also called the people's house. And there is a big kerfuffle and a real power struggle there. So it's going to be interesting to see what actually, how that actually manifests itself. This is Venus ingresses into Aquarius. And we can see here, where is Venus? Where's Venus? Venus, there she is. There's Venus ingressed into Aquarius. You can see actually that she is a lovely sextile to Jupiter, which happens a little bit later in the week. We can see what else is significant here. It is trine the moon in this chart. It's trine the moon, and the moon is powerfully placed in that last degree of Taurus. This is a real sort of, this is really speaking to making sure that the needs of the people are considered here. Okay, and this is a piece of art. It's called Venus of Suburbia by Rosaline Ryan. I just love this picture. I just love it. Okay. On the 3rd of January, we have Venus making the waning sextile to Jupiter. I put this in because Venus and Jupiter are considered the benefics. And here we have exactly what I said, the sextile that happens. I want to point this out. This is one of the reasons why I wanted to put this sextile up. Venus waning sextile to Jupiter, sharing what we understand, progressive thinking, creating a better tomorrow. Yay! Sounds great. This began at the Venus-Jupiter conjunction on April 30th, 2022 at 28 degrees of Pisces. The Sabian symbol for 28 degrees of Pisces is a fertile garden under the full moon, reveals a variety of full-grown vegetables. The keynote, the full satisfaction of an individual's basic needs. The key word is abundance. Abundance. Interesting, the key word would be abundance, and we would start this year with these symbols, considering that there are many places on the planet that don't have enough food, they don't have fuel, there's wars going on, people are freezing to death, people are getting blown up, families are being scattered to the winds, whole cities and societies, and yet there is a light side to everything that happens. As dark as it gets light as well, in balance. And so we need the light to see what needs to be fixed. It's like if your car suddenly poops out on the side of the road and it's nighttime, you need a flashlight well, I wouldn't know what I was looking at under the hood, but some people might, to see what's going on, what's under the hood. And that light, we are that light. We are the beams of light to show what needs to be dealt with. But we have the capacity for abundance. Now we have the full moon. The full moon is in Cancer. It is at 1622 of Cancer. The Sabian symbol for 17 degrees of Cancer, you always go up with that. We would look at the 16th degree if it was 1600 of Cancer, or if it was 1530 of Cancer. But you always go up with the Sabian symbol. It says the unfoldment of multi-level potentials issuing from an original germ. This is the symbol for the moon in Cancer. The life urge to actualize one's birth potential. And the key word is growth. We're in a 7-year, know thyself. Opposing the sun at 17 degrees of Cancer. And what is the symbol for that? One of my favorite symbols in the Sabian symbols. A repressed woman finds psychological release in nudism. The escape from bondage to social inhibitions and a reliance upon the wisdom of the body. Celebrating the body is celebrating the feminine, the unleashing of all these social mores and expectations and calculations of what a woman is, or what the feminine is, or what you're feminine. You may not be a woman. You still have a feminine side, to allow it to express itself. To allow it to express itself. Keyword here, releasing from inhibitions. So we might have a little uninhibited week. And here we have the full moon in Cancer. Here's the moon, 17, 12, 21. Here's the sun. We do have the sun in a close conjunction to Mercury. Remember Mercury and the sun. Oh, actually, tomorrow, the next day, Mercury will retrograde back to the sun for that inferior conjunction. I have a thing on that. I have a chart on that. This full moon is and does create a T-square with Chiron. So Chiron is sort of halfway between the sun and the moon, and Chiron in Aries, 13 degrees of Aries to be precise, is the presence of the wounds of identity. Who am I, right? I'll read the Sabian symbol. I don't have it there, but I have it in my book here. I'll read the Sabian symbol. I'm interested because I haven't looked. So this is the Sabian symbol for, what degree is this again of Aries? The 13th degree of Aries. An unexploded bomb reveals an unsuccessful social protest. An immature evaluation of the possibility of transforming suddenly the status quo. Wow, doesn't this sound like Donald Trump's insurrection? The key word here is adolescent frustration. That about sums up Trump. So we may, with this full moon's always about illumination. Something may be illuminated around Trump, this situation with Donald Trump and the future, as it were. And mind you, if we haven't noticed the day, it is the anniversary of the insurrection that we have this full moon on. Square Chiron. Hello. And lastly, this week, we have an inferior conjunction of Mercury retrograde and the sun. When the sun and Mercury conjoin, it could either conjoin when Mercury is retrograde or when Mercury is direct. When Mercury is retrograde, it's called an inferior conjunction. Mercury is actually positioned between the sun and the earth in line that way, right? When Mercury is direct, it's considered a superior conjunction because Mercury is actually on the opposite side of the sun, and the earth would be on, I'd be the earth, the sun would be here, and then we'd have Mercury here, right? So it's still in an alignment, but it's further away. So these inferior conjunctions with Mercury retrograde are the highlight of the Mercury retrograde period. And so this is a time of deep, deep inner search for what it is that you need, that needs to be illuminated to you. This is occurring at 17 degrees of Capricorn. Remember that one? A repressed woman finds psychological release in nudism, the escape from bondage to social inhibitions and a reliance upon the wisdom of the body, release from inhibitions, the woman unchained, woman unchained. So it's a very, very powerful time. Now, next week, we have the biggest thing happening next week, I believe I might say. And there's a couple of things, so it's not the only thing happening, but probably the biggest thing that's happening next week is Mars is turning direct. So this whole time, Mars is practically standing still in Gemini, sort of ruminating, which Gemini can do, right? Ruminating with a lot of anger. So when that starts to move forward, we're sort of like waiting. We're just like this, waiting for the other shoe to drop, perhaps. But we can take that energy and focus it in the direction we want. So don't get distracted by the people who are going to use that energy negatively. You need to use that energy to sort of rev up your engine, because the 7-year is not only a year of introspection, but it's the year of the Chariot. And the Chariot is a card that deals with the path of the soul via the personality to come in and manifest on the physical 3-dimensional plane what it is we are here to do. We move into density because we are learning how to manifest in that density. And we as human beings are bridges between the dense 3-dimensional worlds of our solar plexus, our sacral plexus, our sacral chakra, our root chakra, and we have the heart, which is where the higher vibrations of the throat and the third eye and the crown blends with the lower vibrations. And so it's harmony through conflict. That's how we as humans come to, it's like we come together. And right now we're kind of still doing this, but we're starting to do this now. But what's going to happen is we're going to come down at a higher level. So we might have started here and done this, and now it's starting, I think, to come, and we're going to see that it sort of goes like this, but at a higher level, a more inclusive level. Our concentric rings, our boundaries are expanding. And we have to learn how to live in that world, because the rules are a bit different. But one rule is not different. As you sow, so shall you reap. So it still matters what you do. It's just that the tools that you use may differ. You may start using your psychic tools a lot more if you're not necessarily have been into that. Now you're exploring that. Yes, it's an interesting time to be alive. I hope you enjoyed this. Please like and subscribe. I'll have the next week out next Sunday. And if you would like to support me, just give a thumbs up or a like or share. You can always support me on Patreon. I'm expanding that channel as I'm expanding this channel. But there's a link below if you want to support me that way. Most of my stuff is still on YouTube. It will remain. I will continue to do YouTube stuff, but I do want to build a Patreon, a good channel, and where you can get some stuff that you can't get otherwise. I do have a series on The Devil is in the Details, the making of the monster that is Trump. I have one more relationship I want to look at, and that's his relationship with the Republican Party. That's fun to look at. I also have something on justice and the combination of Letitia James and Michael Cohen, which is very interesting as well. It's like a detective novel, really. It's all like a detective novel. Anyway, I'll see you again next week. Take care of yourself. Be safe. Dream your dreams. Do what you need to do. It is a year of miracles. So receive them. Namaste.